Hi, my name is Mikunj Joshi. I run the healthcare technology vertical for Accion Labs. Um, what I wanted to do is, keep this as a very, very sort of an open forum, like a fireside chat. I don't want it to be a monologue of sorts. So again, please make it interactive. Please let me know if there are specific things that you would like covered. I'm not going to use and take a lot of time on sort of the slide deck. It's only about 4 or 5 slides, just to sort of assist with the thinking. So what I intend to do on this one is, just do a quick recap of, so I visited HIMSS this year. Just a quick recap of, some themes that I saw there, and also in general, some specific trends and innovation trends that I'm seeing in healthcare technology. That's really it. And then I'll speak, for a minute or two about sort of, some similar solutions that I'm seeing in the market, and what's being built. So with this, I'll just launch right into it. Again, my name is Mikunj Joshi. I spent about 20 years in the US healthcare technology space. A lot of my experience actually revolves around the confluence of innovation, enterprise technology, and healthcare. I've worked for payers, providers, a lot of technology startup companies. And as I mentioned earlier, I now run the healthcare technology vertical for Accion Labs. Um, I attended HIMSS this year. I assume most of you guys already are familiar with HIMSS. It's a very an event focused on innovation and technology in healthcare. It does toggle back and forth between Las Vegas and Orlando. So this year it was in Las Vegas. Uh, as you can see here, encouragingly, there were about 24,000 participants this year. So given COVID, this was very, very encouraging. Um, as you can see from my picture, that's me with the mask on, not as handsome as Alex Rodriguez there. So that's me with the mask on. Uh, we had 701 exhibitors in total, of which there were about 150 or so companies that were more innovation and technology focused. It was supposed to be a non-mask event, but then 3 days prior to the event, Nevada passed a law that required everyone to mask up. Um, Coming back to the exhibitors and sort of the general theme, as you can see there, telemedicine and telehealth was, I mean, clearly the sort of the theme of the year. Close to more than half of the tech-driven companies were in some shape or form focused on telemedicine and telehealth. With the Cure Act that was passed earlier this year, uh, understandably, data interoperability, EMR integration, that space also saw a lot of action, with close to a third of the companies operating in that space, third of the participants. Then there were again companies around, and there were multiple subcategories, so we didn't want to list out all of them. We just listed out the next two big categories. One was around, life science, pharma, medical, which fairly typical, about 10% of the companies, and billing and payments related gateway companies, Change Healthcare, Echo, those kind of companies. There were about 8 or 10 of them. Um, Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod as he's known, New York Yankees baseball player, for most of you, I'm sure you know him. Um, uh, like one of the greatest of all time. He did the closing note. Here's one of the key things that I really love that stuck with me from that keynote. A lot of people know about Alex Rodriguez being one of the greatest of all time hitters, one of the best batting averages. But what we don't know is that A-Rod is fifth on the list for all time strikeouts. And he brought this up. And the point he was bringing this up was that in order to actually achieve something great, you actually have to step out of your comfort zone and take initiatives, take the swings. So he encouraged the healthcare industry, to sort of continue to use innovation, continue to use technology, use things like the Cure Act to actually create and continue to create big impact in care, reduce the cost, and improve care using technology. There's a great closing speech. If I could somehow find the video, I will try and share that with all the participants, after the webinar. Here are the first. I like to keep things very simple. I'll keep everything to about 3 or 4 bullets. These are themes I want to sort of leave you with. Here are the 4 key themes that we saw at HIMSS this year, from what I understood. I touched upon a few of these, just quickly double clicking on them. With the CureX coming out earlier this year, data interoperability was front and center for a lot of companies. Even those that don't operate in the data integration space, there was in some shape or form, every platform was talking about how am I going to build something. For example, even a patient engagement company was talking about how they're going to actually leverage data from EMRs and create some kind of an interoperable data play as the patient goes from one care setting to another through the episode of care. Another very interesting theme was how patients are taking more and more responsibility for their care, and therefore systems need to be designed with the patient in the center. So with the patient in the center, everything is sort of 360 degrees around the patient. It's a big mind shift that's happening in healthcare. It was very care delivery driven. Now it's becoming very patient centric driven. Accountable Care Act, the ability to actually do uh, uh, impact based care is gaining a lot of traction, with systems and platforms being designed specifically for that. I already touched upon the third part. By far, the theme of the year, given COVID and everything else, was telemedicine. Uh, Tons of companies in the space, lot of companies looking at telemedicine as a huge opportunity, and very interested to sort of build it. That said, I did see, and I'll touch upon this later on. I did see some areas where I think there is a lot that can be done differently or additionally to what's available typically off the shelf, and I'll cover this later. Last but not the least, again, with the patient at the center of your ecosystem, the ability to actually drive patient centric, personalized, value based care, including care that is and treatments that are genetic data driven, is again gaining a lot of traction. So those were the sort of the 4 big themes that I saw, not the only ones, but the biggest ones that I personally sort of took as takeaways. Uh, just building off of that, trends that we are seeing on the innovation front is that telehealth is now becoming incrementally the digital front door to a lot of providers and health plans. So there was a great presentation by Munson Health out of Western US. I mean, they have multiple hospital systems across Western and Northern Western states in the US, Oregon, California, and so on. They spoke about how they have seen a significant improvement in the middle of the COVID going forward. So they got a big hit in the first 3 to 6 months of COVID, but then after adopting telehealth, they showed a marked improvement again, in terms of patients sort of walking in to the clinics and or using telehealth as a means of engaging with them. Another area is how machine learning and artificial intelligence is now becoming mainstream and is being used for things like diagnosis detection, to create patient risk profiles and create those value-based plans I was talking about, or is being used in decision support systems. And I'll touch upon a couple of specific case studies that I saw. Very interesting. Data analytics has been gaining traction for the last decade, and just with the data interchange, health information exchanges, the Cure Act, it's gaining more and more traction. So I found there are 2 very interesting categories of companies there. So one company called Clinical Data API, what they do is they basically provide you APIs directly into the health information exchanges. So say you want to set out a practice in Oregon, they actually already have pre-created infrastructure and integration already in place for you to be able to tap into the HIE and get all of the data from it. And that HIE has very key participants from that particular geo. A second category was companies that were more point-to-point focused. So where they were giving you platforms where you could use that platform to actually push and pull data from specific EMR and EHR instances. So, and these both require actually a very different architecture, design thinking, and value proposition. So again, those 2 categories of companies. So with that said, with those as the themes, I just wanted to very quickly sort of touch upon some of the solutions that we've seen and we've built as Accion Labs But before I go there, let me just give you a quick overview of who we are. Accion Labs is an innovation engineering company. We have 3,500 engineers across the world, 20 global offices, including offices in the US, Latin America, Europe, Eastern Europe, India, and we've got multiple development centers in each of these regions. What we do is we help healthcare technology companies build products and accelerate their innovation. That's who we are. Following the webinar, if you have any specific questions on Accion, happy to do that. I wanted to keep this theme more around innovation and sort of what I saw at HIMSS. So along those lines, let me show you 2 or 3 very interesting case studies and solutions that we've seen and built recently. So the first one is that ML AI assistant. This is something we built for a very large medical practice out of Pittsburgh, where we were able to take X-rays of the knee and hips and run them through a ML and AI based medical assistance system that within seconds was able to give you a prediction of the level of arthritis degeneration. You could also do this as a batch process overnight where you could upload thousands of images, and when you come in the morning, it actually segregates everything. So radiologists then can do a lot more with their time. Physicians can focus more on patient care, and the algorithms basically become a great assistant. They're never going to replace humans. They're never going to be able to take an output directly from an algorithm, stamp it and send it out. But at least what it does is it improves the throughput, it reduces stress-induced errors. And as you can see there, in some cases, we've seen as high as a 95% accuracy in the predictability of these algorithms as compared to a human. A second use case is, where we help build a wearable. Wearables are becoming very, very big. Both patient-reported data or wearable-reported data is getting more and more integrated into, that patient 360-degree view of the world that I was referring to. In this particular instance, you wear these on your head. It actually reads your brain waves, and it is able to cure neurological diseases by altering your brain waves. They are one of the world's first patented digital medicine, and now currently in 4 countries. The last one is as I mentioned, telehealth was a big theme. So we've seen a lot of platforms that are combining different aspects of healthcare delivery inside a telemed setting. So here, step number 1 is care discovery. This is where you go in, put in a specialty, put in the type of visit you want, either telehealth or an in-clinic, and you select your payment type, and it actually will come back to you with physicians that are available in those specialties, the time slots, and with one click, you're able to actually either do a real-time teleconsultation and or a scheduled teleconsultation. When the teleconsultation does begin, as you can see in the step number 3 there, one of the big, and this is what I was telling earlier, there are still areas that I see that need improvement from off-the-shelf products, and why our particular customer asked us to build a telemedicine platform from scratch. Most telemedicine platforms are they're telemedicine video conferencing systems. However, as you're in the middle of a consultation, if you're a physician, you are having to constantly switch over, take clinical notes, look at the patient history. You may have to do an e-prescription, put a lab order, and constantly toggling away from the screen is very distracting for the patient, especially when you're looking at very sensitive care delivery, like behavioral health and so on. And so what we've done and what we've incrementally seen is customers who are building a fully immersive video experience, where from the same screen, the provider is actually able to take notes, patient history, all of that, from one single screen, exactly like a Zoom session. And the feature that Zoom recently added of integrating apps inside Zoom. That's exactly the kind of solutions that we built. And most solutions that I saw at HIMSS sort of did not have that fully immersive capability just yet. A lot of them had it in their roadmap, but it was not very well thought out yet. So this particular one has chat. It has got, mic and volume testing. It's got clinical notes. It's got history, all of that built in. All of this is live data being pulled from the EMR in the background. That's it. Again, like I said, I wanted to keep it to 7-8 slides, just give you a high level overview. Happy to take any questions or, sort of cover any particular items that anyone might have or any other questions that somebody might want to pose. So we'll give everyone a couple of minutes, and I do see a question here, so I'm just prepping a response. I need a quick document for that. And Roshan, I know you're on the call as well. In case you see any particular questions in addition to the one that I see, please do let me know.
Yep.
Okay, so I will probably start with the first one. So the one question I do see is somebody asking, as we build these solutions, what are the other kind of things we do within healthcare as Accion Labs, and sort of what trends are we seeing? So I can maybe just spend 1 minute or 2 minutes on sort of who we are. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen here again. As I mentioned earlier, we are an innovation engineering company, 3,500 engineers, 100 active clients, 1,000 plus clients lifetime, 20 plus accelerators, 8 development centers globally. We were founded 11 years ago, and we've grown through acquisitions. We are backed by TA Associates. They are a $13 billion VC fund, and a third of everything I showed you actually comes from healthcare for us. Here's a snapshot of our global locations that I was talking about. Again, US represents a big market for us. Almost 2/3 of everything we do comes from US, and a third of everything we do comes from healthcare. All of the rest of the areas that you see are either smaller markets for us and or development delivery centers for us. Here's a quick snapshot of different constituents within healthcare we have worked with. So we worked with pharma companies, providers, healthcare startups, technology companies, telemedicine companies, and overlay this circle with what we call the technology levers of innovation. Excuse me. So these are the kind of technologies that we specialize in. So when you think, anytime you think about, okay, I've got a legacy product in place, I need to build an analytics platform on it. We've got solutions, accelerators, thought leadership in place to actually come in and get the ground running in terms of how particular data analytics can be built even on legacy platforms. Similarly, you might have a situation where you might want to create an RP or a chat bot like patient engagement automation on top of your existing CRM. Done that kind of work too. So again, a lot of interesting case studies in each of these areas of technology overlapping with particular industries within healthcare. We engage in a lot of different models, everything from professional services, staffing, but a big chunk of what we do comes from what I call the extended delivery center. This is an example of this. So this is where we provide a lot of different models. So the model A here is integrated teams, where our teams essentially become an extension or integrated directly into your teams. A second model is where we do a bit of that, but also co-own an entire delivery end-to-end. We can do that. Or a third is where your teams continue to do what they do today, and we, Accion Labs, essentially takes over and does the rest of the let's say a particular engagement that you might have, or a particular project that you might want to execute, whether that's around ML, AI, QA automation, you name it. I mean, we can come in and execute that. I'll just stop here. I will share this deck right after the webinar. It does have towards the end of it specific areas. What I wanted to cover is, again, we built a lot of product. We do a lot of product engineering, cloud services, so everything from cloud lifecycle. We do a lot of specific applications that we built in healthcare around interoperability, wearable data, data integration. Again, with the Cures Act, this is becoming huge for us. We have close to 160 healthcare customers right now. So this is big for us. And last but not the least, big data and analytics. So everything from data warehousing to BI tools to analytics platforms, reporting engine, NLP for unstructured data. We built a lot of interesting use cases around those. And I'll share this. You'll be able to see a lot of the case studies, that we've built. And like I said, I already touched upon the first 3. There are a few more that you can review, after the webinar. Any other questions? Please feel free to post. I do see there are a bunch of participants, that have joined in. Okay, if there are no other questions, I mean, perfectly fine. We can wrap this up. If following the webinar, we will be sending out quick email with our contact, with my contact details. If something else comes up, or you would like to learn a little bit more about some of the any particular solutions that we've built, or any areas we can assist with, please feel free to reach out to us. Great. I will give back the 30 minutes or so, about 20 minutes back to you. Again, thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Bye, everyone.